Yo, what's good? It's your boy, South Breeze 706. It's Committee Podcast. We got Marcus Sniffles and Dolphin Savage. What's good?
Trying to get my bid in out here living.
Yeah, just out here chilling.
Yeah, shout out everybody who listens on iTunes, or I'm sorry, Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. Leave a review, leave a comment, jump in on the conversation. So we can get right into it this week. We got the worst tweet of the week from Joyce Massey at jmass_03. And no disrespect, it's all love, but everybody can get it. We give our own members worst tweet of the week, so you have to get this because you were really out of pocket with your comments. You said, I'm going to give you two of your tweets. You said hip-hop is not black culture. It's one of many genres of music. Music is a part of any culture. Other music of black culture, and she went on the list, gospel music, blues, all kinds of wild stuff like that. And my response to her was, hip-hop is black culture, which influenced the world, right? And her response to me was, a white guy says, I understand black culture. I listen to hip-hop, you quickly change your views. So stop. Folks are impressionable and they might believe you. I'm like, nah, if a white person said they understand black culture because they listen to hip-hop, I tell them they're stupid. And I told her I'd tell them to also go read some books. Like, you can't make such a bold and wrong statement and then have an even worse response to your bad statement, man. Like, come on, man. Let's not do that.
If a white person wants to say that they understand hip hop culture, I'm fine with them saying that they understand it, but don't come around and say like, oh, this is my culture. This is my culture now too, because I listened to Biggie Smalls growing up. Like, you understand it, listen to it, rock with it, enjoy it, but just know that it doesn't belong to you and respect where it came from.
Yeah, and my other question is, if hip hop's not black culture, then whose culture is it? Like,
it's our culture. It's who we are as people. It's and I'm not just talking about the music that people would deem trashy or youth oriented, but a lot of times we listen to artists that are able to verbally display some of the things that go on in our ghettos, or even outside of our ghettos, just through our lives. We listen to certain music, like let's say Kendrick Lamar and his Damn CD. Some of the songs directly relate to what's going on in black culture today. So it's definitely a part of black culture. It's not the only thing that is black culture, but it's a part of our culture. It's a part of our DNA.
Hip hop isn't just black culture. Like, music is pretty much black culture. If you go back to like, Africa with the drums and, jazz, rock and roll, country, funk music, rap, pop. Like, we pretty much created music. Everything musically probably came from a black person or was influenced by, you can go back to like Elvis. Like, he was influenced by black people. He was influenced by like Little Richard and I'm missing. There's a black woman. I'm mad. I'm not remembering her name, but he pretty much
stole stuff from him.
Used her song. So, if you want to say like hip hop is not black culture, then you might as well just say music is not black culture, because I mean, black people pretty much created music. All the music you listen to now stems from us. So you're welcome.
Yeah, that's going as far as to say that that a lot of the socially conscious music is not being played, or rappers aren't socially conscious. I was like, you could argue that 2 out of the top rappers in the game right now are pretty socially conscious rappers. And again, she was like, oh, well, you have to go seek it out. It's like, okay, well, I don't listen to the radio. Any music I want to hear is because I want to listen to it. I'm not going to be forced to listen to trash music or whatever you might think is not great rap music. Like, that's your choice. Like,
yeah, we're in the internet age. This isn't the time where you can only listen to what was on the radio. It's a new day now. If you want to listen to conscious hip hop, put it in your phone. Type it in on Apple Music or on Tidal, Spotify, anything. You can listen to whatever you want. No one is forcing anything on you. If you don't think that there are any conscious rappers out there, it's because you're not looking for them. It's because you don't listen to anything.
And honestly, it shows your age. Obviously,
yes.
Okay, we're not going to slander people's age. Maybe
I'm not going to slander age, but I'm just saying that's a common thing for them. Like, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I talked about, and I don't want to get too far off subject, but I talked about how some people that I know that are our age, some people that actually or that are in the committee lounge, and what they'll do is any new hot artist, the music's all trash, it's garbage.
I miss the 90s. Everybody always.
I miss the 90s. I miss the early 2000s. It's like we always have the generation of trash music. We have the conscious rappers. It happens every generation. So when you start talking about 21 Savage, Kodak Black, and some of those people being trashy, they said the same thing in our years when we were listening to Lil Jon and the East Side Boys and Lil Boosie and Lil Webby, the different things that or Ludacris. Yeah, they said the same thing about that. So it just really just shows your age to me.
That's all it is. It's just you getting older, because when like Eric B and Rakim were out there, you know, in 30-year-olds back then were listening to them. The younger kids might have been listening to, like, you know, Jay-Z or Nas, and the old guys like, no, this dude's a whack. Then those guys get a little bit older and they're like, oh, Jay-Z, Nas, this is what you really need to be listening to. When younger kids are just like, nah, we're on this UGK or we're on this Tupac or whatever. Like, the young people determine what's cool. Like, when in 20 years from now, I'm probably going to be the person who's like, yeah, this music is trash. Back in my day, you know, when hip hop was hip hop. You can go back to any decade. There's always some 30-year-old wash nigga talking about that.
Well, but you can argue though, like from those days of let's not even say Eric B and Rakim, but maybe Run DMC or the older type of not very technical rap. You could say there is a huge difference of technicality, wordplay, and stuff like that from then to now. So that could be argued, because some of that shit was terrible. Like, yeah,
it's definitely, like, rap is definitely evolved, and it's different.
Like Grandmaster Flash. Like, some of that rapping was just literally just talking or whatever. Yeah. Like, it wasn't nothing.
But it's newer artists that are doing that same thing. It just keeps going on.
Yeah, but there is a clear line of demarcation from how rap, like the birth of rap. When rap was a baby, you could tell it was crawling, didn't really understand how things work. And now people are running with rap. Like, people are at Usain Bolt levels of rap. Like, it's great now. Now there's people that don't take that seriously and use that type of style, but rap is at a different point, a different stage than it was back then. So I could argue that. I don't see how it could get at a much higher level than it is now, to be honest with you.
I mean, people said that you can pretty much go through anything. We can go through, like, technology. Like, look at the iPhone. We didn't think, 3 iPhones ago, we didn't think it'd be this. We thought that the iPhone 2 was like, yo, it can't get any better than this. We're on the iPhone 7. You look at athletes. Athletes like, back in the day, like a Bo Jackson or even like Michael Jordan. You look at Michael Jordan jumping from the free throw line in the dunk contest. Regular bench warmers do that now. Like, back then, that was an impressive feat. Now, that's not impressive anymore. And that's the same with rap music. Like you're saying, like these old,
it's not apples to apples comparison, man. Athleticism and rap ability is too.
What I'm saying is things evolve, things change. At that point when rap first started, people probably didn't think it could get any better than that. And then the 90s or the 80s hit, and the people were like, "Yo, this is it." Then the 90s hit. It's like, "Oh man, this is it." Then the 2000s hit. It's gonna keep going. It's gonna keep evolving, and I think rap is going to continue to keep pushing the boundaries because rap is such a different sound. Like, if you look at Lil Uzi Vert, Ugly God, 21 Savage, Lil Yachty, they're all rappers. Jay-Z, Nas, Twister, Kanye West, they all sound different, completely different, but they all fall under the same umbrella because they're pushing the music forward. It's not just the same old stuff. There's so many different sounds in hip hop.
Well, we could debate those other trash guys or rappers. But moving on. So we had some responses from last week's podcast regarding some comments made about women wearing makeup. I guess Marcus got some DMs where he interacted with some people, and shout out to y'all on Twitter. I'm actually still waiting for somebody who listens randomly on SoundCloud or iTunes to at me on Twitter at Southbreeze706. I'm waiting for y'all to interact, man. We out here. We trying to connect with y'all, so hit us up. So what were some of the responses we got?
Yeah,
so I'm ready to do some Q&A to clear my name.
I'm gonna read a couple responses I got since Ellie is not here as the female voice on the podcast, I figured I'd get some other women's input on what we were talking about. And the first person I got is Miss Mackenzie Marie on Twitter, and she said, "So I listened." She said, "So I listened to the podcast, and I agree with Ellie. I wear makeup to look good for me, or if it's a special occasion, I don't wear it often, but when I do, it's for a purpose." That's what she said.
And that purpose is probably to find a man, so you're not really doing it for you. So shout out to you. I wish you had pictures of these people so I kind of check their temperature, because people might be faking the funk.
She could be right though. Some women do wear it for special occasions.
Yeah, most of them have their pictures in their avatar. So I guess I'll put their ads out there in the comments or something. But the next person I have is undefined_Rose. Hang on a second. Actually, she did not respond.
No shout out to you.
Let me go to the Afro Rose Blossom. That's her Twitter name.
I'll follow you. What's up?
Yeah. So she said, in her opinion, women wear makeup because it makes them look supernaturally beautiful. Women are already beautiful, and makeup just adds to it. Not to mention, it's a literal art. It takes a lot of time and experimentation to find what shades work for you. Let me scroll down a little bit. It's kind of long.
Yeah.
Jeez. What shades work for you? How to work with other colors. Like, there's a lot more work into it than a lot of people know, which is why it's offensive when guys say that it's false advertisement or other shit. Like, it's a huge confidence booster when you wear makeup, when your makeup is right and popping and you know it. It's also something that women can bond over. I love getting tips from my homegirls.
Okay, well, go back and read the first part of that. She said that makeup helps you look naturally beautiful. That's contradicting. No, it does not.
She said it makes them look She said it makes them look supernaturally beautiful.
No, it doesn't, because when you have blue eyeliner under your eyes, there's nothing natural about that. Like, that's the complete opposite of natural. Like, again, I'm not saying that you can't wear makeup, but again, you just said that, hey, this takes a lot of time. Again, put that time in something else. Like, I don't know, reading books, going to the gym, making sure your mental state is good. Like, you shouldn't spend all that time painting your face. Like, the arts and crafts stopped in kindergarten. Like,
all right. The next one is from @CraftyCake27. She said, "Whoever said women wear makeup like men wear sneakers, yes, I think you're on the right track. My friends and I basically collect makeup and talk about what new highlights or eyeshadow palettes we got. It's fun. I don't use all that shit on my face every day. It's just my collection I can choose from to create looks. It's a creative thing that makes me feel good. Taking care of ourselves and putting effort into looking good and what we feel looks good is part of our self-care. When you look good, you feel confident and you can tackle other things in your life. While I agree, doing your makeup shouldn't hinder you from going out, and your self-confidence shouldn't hinge completely on your appearance, it is not a man's job to tell a woman what she should look like. Your options are, babe, you look gorgeous with no makeup and your hair up, and that's about it. Boost her confidence when she's got a naked face, but don't tell her not to try and look good. But don't tell her not to try and look how she thinks she looks good." I don't know.
You probably should have proofread these, because you seem to be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, so I was good halfway to her, like halfway of her response, but the end of it just got really. Again, I don't understand why women get so defensive with that. Like, you just said that, hey, don't tell her how she should look, but you're essentially saying that
tell her she's beautiful, so lie to her.
You're telling me to lie. Like, okay, if I already say that your face looks fine with makeup, and then you put on a pound of makeup and you look crazy, I'm supposed to still say, oh yeah, you still look good? No, like, why would I do that?
Yeah, just her last paragraph. If I'm always hanging around in sweatpants and workout clothes with zero makeup, that's not sexy after a while. There's a balance to be achieved, and that balance is for each of us to decide.
Oh, that was it? Oh,
that was it for her.
I mean, again, sexy doesn't age well, man. Like, just naturally looking good is what was going to take you further, in my opinion. Like, Find me a lady who tries to stay sexy through her 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. She's gonna end up looking crazy. If she takes care of herself and just naturally looks good, then she's gonna be a beautiful woman. Like Felicia Rashad, Cosby Show. She's a beautiful woman, right? But she doesn't need to put on all kinds of crazy makeup to make herself look sexy or confident.
She probably does put on makeup though for the show. My thing is this: I just want to get a quick point out. I think that we're kind of forgetting the fact that a lot of times women will use makeups to hide certain deficiencies. So you're not just you're enhancing yourself by hiding things. They put on foundation, concealer, all that stuff to hide acne, all this different stuff. So it's like, I mean, who are you kidding here? Like, really, you're not trying to impress anybody, but you're trying to hide these bumps. Okay, whatever. Just wanted to point that out. Is that it's not all about enhancement. Like I could see if you just had the lashes or lipstick or something, but we're talking about painting your whole face. Right. There's a reason that you
turning into two different people. I've seen some of these little Instagram videos where they'll take a duck, they'll take the worst looking type of woman,
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and read this. Let me go to the next one.
Let me hold on, edit that. Let me edit that out.
Underscore pretty liberal. She said, I wear it for different reasons. Depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll use it just for more polished look. The same reason I'd iron a pair of pants before putting them on, just to look more polished, diminish minor flaws like Adolphus was saying. Or I could be feeling super extra and might go for a more dramatic look. It's not to look like somebody else. It's just to further enhance my beauty.
So you just compared your skin to a pair of wrinkled jeans. Like, that's not how skin. Oh, come on, man, bruh.
I mean, we can't kill her for the bad analogy. She's just meaning that.
Yes, you can.
But
you absolutely can.
But she may not know what she says.
This is the last one. This is the last one I got. It's from No Siren. She said, "I feel like you can't collectively select one reason why women wear makeup. One, women can wear makeup because they're artistic and creative. It could truly just be fun and basically really just doing it for themselves. I feel as if though you can be 100% confident and wear makeup every day, it's like adding that extra sugar to your cereal when you know you don't need it, but it still tastes good anyway. Women could suffer from lack of," these sentences are terrible. Women could suffer from a lack of confidence to fit to society's norms. Maybe they think they're too dark, so they wear lighter makeup, which ties in with skin bleaching and body enhancement.
And lack of self-confidence.
Or they're not happy with their looks and only think they're pretty with makeup. So that's all the DMs I got about the previous episode when talking about women and their makeup.
Well, first of all, I would like to shout out everybody that did take the time to listen to the podcast and respond.
Definitely at me with all those people so I can follow them, because I would like to continue this conversation, because, again, some of them made sense and some of them were kind of in left field, but appreciate y'all checking this out, though.
But I kind of feel like my sentiment on it is you might have some people that do it to enhance certain things, but I kind of feel like women do it to hide deficiencies and to impress men. And it's not like, what I don't want to do is get into the whole, men control the world. You're a male chauvinist pig. It's the truth. We want to attract the people that we want to attract. I mean, whether it's you're attracted to men or women, you're doing it to enhance your beauty, to give you that extra confidence, to maybe get that extra DM or that extra number in that night. Don't sit there and try to pretend like you just do it for friends or like a damn powwow, because that's not true. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, so again, shout out to them. So last week we gave y'all 2 for 1. We did another podcast on the Charlottesville protest or rally or whatever, Tiki Torch Fest or whatever was going on out there. So I took my own advice with the Charlottesville Challenge, and I had that discussion with somebody who doesn't look like me at my job, and the responses that I got were it was incredible. It was incredibly bad. So, man, the amount of people that are educated in this country is very disturbing. Now, mind you, this person is not from the South at all, but he started off his his rebuttal or his statement with, I didn't vote for Trump, I don't support Trump. But he's like, well, I don't understand what the big deal about the Confederate flag is, you know, that's not what it's about. And then kind of went on to try to justify keeping the flag and the statues. I was like, dog, you can't have something that's a proxy for hate in this country. And obviously it's symbolism for a lot of crazy people to murder people or hang people or lynch people. You can't have that, man. That's just not cool. And he just continued went on to defend it. He went on to say he went with the rhetoric that both sides are wrong, which I was like, no, one side has a body count, the other side doesn't. It was a lot going on. He also went into something about, oh, you know, what if there's a Malcolm X statue and they're trying to take it down? Would you protest them? Like, there would never be a reason to take down a Malcolm X statue. He's like, oh, you know, wasn't he friends with Martin Luther King and wasn't he violent? I'm like, no. He simply said that if people laid hands on him, he would respond with violence, which anybody would do.
It wasn't just regular people. It
continued to spiral, and he backtracked. He went at one point to say black people were liars inadvertently. He went on to say that, you know, it's the media's fault. We shouldn't be recording police stops. It was all of. I wish Elle was here. She heard this, but it was out of control.
I mean, the thing was, like, even speaking on Malcolm X, when he's talking about if people put hands on you and attack you to defend yourself, the reason why he had to say that is because that was during a time of, like, segregation, where you, as a black man, if you walked through the front door of an establishment, they would try to fuck you up. If you were a black man and you looked at a white woman too long, they try to kill you. That was in those days. And those aren't rules that black people made. Black people didn't make up that rule. They didn't make up that type of, that's not the law of the land that black people created. Malcolm X was violent because he was defending himself from racists.
Well, I don't think he was violent per se. He had the mindset.
That type of rhetoric. That type of rhetoric now is viewed as violent because it's like, oh, why are you standing at your window with an AK-47? And it's like, the only reason he's doing that is because people are outside his door threatening to burn his house down and put a burning cross in his front yard. Not black people, by the way. They're not threatening to do that.
And again, I'm not saying this as a way to kind of roast him or anything like that, but I appreciate the honest conversation. Again, I try to.
Yeah, he's a racist. He's an honest racist. I appreciate that.
I try to go to this with
he is
an educational standpoint. And another thing that he said, I was pretty good. You know, I was rebutting everything he said. But one thing that kind of got me a little angry was when I tried to present this guy with facts, right? I tried to present him with facts. I said, hey, you know, because he was complaining about the media and when we record these police stops that we're fueling and being more divisive. I'm like, no, because we have to have evidence, because it's been shown that on tape, even with people having evidence that they've been mistreated, they still get acquitted, right? You can look at the Rodney King incident, go that far back. So then he went as far as to say that, oh, we don't know the whole story. I'm like, that's why you have a tape. I'm not saying that the person is correct, that they maybe did commit a crime, but I still rather have your side of the story. And that's when he was like, oh, well, I don't believe that's skewed. I'm like, okay, well, there's a video, I think I talked to y'all about it, of a cop illegally searching a guy's car. And I was telling him about that. He's like, oh, well, who recorded? Just because there's a tape doesn't mean it's true. I'm like, the guy was walking across the street seeing this. He pretty much refused to believe a videotape of a cop violating somebody's rights. He also went as far to say that, like, with the NAACP, them issuing that state advisory in Missouri, he went as far as to say that, well, where'd they get those stats from? That's not real. That's bias. I'm like, dog, these are numbers. They are saying if you're a black person and go to Missouri, you're probably going to end up arrested or pulled over or maybe dead. Like, people went and pulled these numbers, and I guess the state agreed with them. So how can you refute facts? I'm putting facts in your face and you're telling me, because, like, hey, it doesn't matter. It's not real.
The thing that happens is a lot of times you deal with those people and they've had these conversations within their internal friends. Between their internal friends, they come up with these same stories. The person that you're talking to is probably some sort of a pussy that can't, like, articulate their own facts. So they're taking whatever their cousin Jimmy John or whoever gave them and presenting that as facts. Because to me, if you have to sit here and backpedal and then try to compare the lives of, and I'm just going to use Martin Luther King. Okay, so we're all sports fans here. I'm not going to use your team. I'm going to go with another team. So Cleveland is going to hold a banner up, and they're going to do it on the day of the first day of the NBA and say Cleveland Cavaliers, losers of the 2017 finals. Like, who does that? And that's like the whole rhetoric as far as why would you put the South, the leaders, Robert E. Lee and some of those other guys, Andrew Jackson, different things like that. Why would you put these leaders up that lost? They were rebellious and trying to fight against. They committed treason. They, of course, wanted to uphold slavery, but yet and still you put this in so many prominent areas in order to intimidate Black people. And like the real question is, okay, so when you say this is us, this is our history, you're erasing who we are. Well, who are you? Are you guys slave owners? Are you guys supporting treason?
Well, the thing that a good point that I heard about that when it comes to removing Confederate statues is that taking those down does not erase the history of what they did. A person suggested that they should take down the statues and put them in museums and then put underneath them or beside them exactly what that person stood for, who that person was. This person was a slave owner. This person committed treason. This person was actively fighting against, America to uphold slavery. And if you look at a map of all the where all the Confederate statues are, they're all pretty much in areas heavily populated by Black people. So it's kind of a thing. It's almost like they're reminding us, like, hey, we could still own you if we wanted to. This is just a reminder of the guys that used to own you guys. And you don't see a lot of these statues up north. Most of them are in southern areas.
Let me cut you off real quick. So I saw a tweet from The Hill, and they were saying that Montana, the capital of Montana, wants to have a Confederate monument removed after pressure from the Native American lawmakers. And this guy, I guess he's Colonel Morris Davis, whatever. I guess he's retired or something like that. He made a great point. He said Montana didn't even exist until 3 decades after the Civil War was over. Why do they have a Confederate monument in Montana? Like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you so?
Makes no sense.
Why are you so quick to?
The South will rise again, niggas.
Yeah, I also saw another article on CNN that said that there are 1,300 Confederate monuments in the United States, which, if you divide that up, is 26 monuments per state, for every state in the United States. Like, my thing is, like, why don't you have statues that promote positive stuff? Like, that's so divisive. Why don't we have statues of civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King or people like that, like unknown people that we should be learning about, that promotes positivity and unity, instead of, clearly, like you said, somebody that was treasonous to our own country, ideals and enslaved people.
They talk about their history being erased, but
that's what history books are for.
Everyone else's history is being erased to prop up y'all's, to prop up a bunch of second place finishers. Like, we're not gonna, like, who's the most historically famous Native American person that did the most for this country? Nobody knows, because the Europeans, when they took over that land, erased their history. And we're now starting to see all these stories come up of, the Jack Daniels, the guy that created Jack Daniels. He apparently got his recipe or how to make it from a Black dude. But we're just now finding out all this stuff that Black people have contributed to this country that got erased, that got swept under the rug because our history is actively being erased. I don't know if everybody's seen the movie Hidden Figures, about the 3 women that helped put a man on the moon. We're just now finding out about that stuff in 2015 through 17, because they got the remaining lady got a medal from President Obama when he was in office. But why don't those 3 women have statues? Why aren't those women upheld and recognized? And the reason why is because nobody talked to them. They were like, yo, we can't have the American public out here thinking that these 3 colored women helped put a man on the moon. We can't have that. So we're going to need to put someone else out there, or just not talk about it. So you guys, all you Confederate, homers or whatever you want to call yourselves, talking about, oh, you're going to erase our history. Yeah. No. Why don't you talk to black people, talk to Hispanics, talk to Native Americans? Their history is pretty much non-existent in this country, and they've done probably a lot more things to build us up than the Confederate ever did.
Yeah, and that's one thing I want to understand. Like, this one person on my Facebook who's clearly about to get deleted, they posted, it was a post that had 2 pictures on it. The first picture is of black people standing on top of what looks to be a police car. And it looks like this area had been looted. And it says, if this doesn't offend you, then under it is a picture of the Confederate monument. And that says, and this does unfriend me now. I'm like, are you serious? There's really no context to this picture. What I would think is, with that monument, okay, well, with that picture, we'll wait for Dolphins to come back. I'll just edit this part out.
Yeah, that shit's annoying. Stupid.
Yeah, like, okay, first of all, that clearly looks like an incident where maybe a black person was killed in a riot. Like, that's completely different than, like, what are you really saying with that? You're not saying anything. You're saying that you're not smart enough to understand the difference between both situations. You back, Adolphus? Yo. No.
We can't hear you. Yeah, I'd love to know. I know that there's some Native Americans out there that have done stuff historically great for this country, but we never talk about them. Like, without Native Americans helping Christopher, well, I don't know if it's really helping, but without Native Americans showing, Christopher Columbus how to grow food and how to, work the land, there is no America. Well, there's no America, that was dominated or taken over by Europeans. But I mean, without those people, there is no Confederate history. There is none of that stuff. Like, who is the Hispanic version of, like, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King? Or are there no Hispanics that have ever done anything of any consequence in this country? Because I'm willing to bet that that's not true.
Sounds about right.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't understand why he would say something like, recording incidences is fueling the flame. Like, for decades, people have been saying that things are happening in, poor areas, and nobody believed it. Now people are starting to see it, and now people are like, yo, you guys weren't lying. Because, like,
his responses were all horrible. Like, again, he went to say that, okay, don't record it because it's being divisive. Then he was like, oh, well, then look at the tape. Or no, like, okay, that's why they have. He's saying don't record it. It's divisive. I'm like, okay, well, the video can be used as evidence, and then you can go to court and, figure that out.
I think you got to send him another invite.
I did. Then he was like, oh, well, everybody out there is going to be a bunch of liars. I'm like, no, he said there's going to be a bunch of black people out there. And then he swung back around there and essentially said all the people out there were going to lie in court. I'm like, so you're calling all black people liars? Those are the words that you just said. Like, he just kept contradicting himself and putting himself deeper in the hole.
I mean,
then he was like, oh, well, how does Charlottesville affect you right now? Like, because I'm black. What are you talking about? Like, these people I'm putting in, their cousins could be from Charlottesville. They could have those same beliefs. I'd be putting in white supremacists. I get pulled over by a cop that has those beliefs. I'm like, you don't understand this because you're not black. You don't have to deal with this. And then he tried to go with the whole, oh, I've been pulled over before, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dog, it's not the same thing, man.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, well, you should just live your life. You live your life. I'm like, okay, what if I was living my life like Walter Scott in Charleston, where I used to live at, and got pulled over and shot in the back? Good thing those people were recording, right? Because if not,
yeah, without that tape, that might have just been like, oh well, like
yeah. And I'm like, okay, what if I just live my life like those people also in Charleston, going to church, and Dylan Roof, who clearly had pictures with the Confederate flag, using that as a proxy for hate to start a race war, went there and killed me because I was at that church, just living my life. I was like, dog, like you're not trying to listen to what I'm saying, dog. Like,
I mean, I guess
it's very frustrating.
I mean, they did have a thing like back in, the civil rights days where, they had the March on Selma. Like that's when people really started to pay attention because they were able to get it on tape. They were able to show people footage of Black people getting sprayed with hoses and attacked by dogs. And then at that point, people were like, okay, things are really happening out here. This is actually real. So imagine if Malcolm X could just pull out his camera phone back in the day, or Martin Luther King, or any person that was living through segregation. They could just record being treated poorly, and they could tell people like, yo, this is what's going on over here. You have like when you put it in their face, they can't ignore it. And that, I feel like that's what's going on. People, they can't ignore it anymore. You can't ignore what's happening to people when people are getting shot in the back by police officers. You can't ignore that because it's on tape now.
Dolphus, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Ugh.
Yeah, but your video was like fucked up.
Well, I just had one quick point.
We stopped recording. We're gonna reset from what I was gonna say. We were just waiting to get back.
Oh,
damn, dog, your shit sounds trash, dog.
Yeah, I was about to say it don't sound too good.
It sounds like you're on a phone now.
Oh shit, I am on the phone. Okay, let me try something else.
And then I told him about when my car was searched in front of my house. He was like, because I told him like I had a copy. No, he asked me, "Oh, have you ever been beat up by the cops?" I'm like, "No, but I've had my car illegally searched." He's like, "Oh, were you speeding?" I was like, "No, I was in my house. My car was parked in front of my house in my neighborhood that's gated, so he had to come into the neighborhood." He's like, "Oh, well, why do you do it?" I'm like, he said I couldn't park on the side of the road. I'm like, I look outside, I see like 8 other cars parked just like mine. He's like, "Oh, well, how did you know he did it?" I'm like, because he left the glove compartment open. And then he was like, "Oh, well, something. How do you know you were Black?" I'm like, I didn't even bring race into this, dog. Like, what do you?
Well, once you start like making excuses and start questioning things, that's how you know that people don't really care. It's like when someone tells you something like that, it's just like you gotta listen to what they said, understand it, and take it in and acknowledge what they're going through. Like, there's no reason for someone to keep questioning someone else's life experience.
All right, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Oh shoot, man! What the hell's going on?
All right, I'm gonna start back up with that picture I seen on Facebook. Damn, I can't remember what I was talking about. Anyways, so yeah, there's this person on my Facebook page that posted a picture. It's 2 pictures. The first picture up top is some Black people on top of a squad car. It looks like some sort of lewd going on or a riot. Under it has a picture of the Confederate monument. On the first picture, the caption says, "If this doesn't offend you," and then under the Confederate monument says, "And this does, unfriend me now," which I'm clearly about to unfriend her because A, you're not smart enough to understand that that's a false equivalence. It's not the same thing. Most likely these Black guys are looting because a cop probably got away with murder for killing a Black person. Or that could be tied to like, Rodney King thing. Like, this is why they do that stuff. Nobody loots and destroys towns, their own communities, because they want to. They do it because they have to get people's attention. Putting up 1,300 Confederate monuments all around the country, why are you pushing this in people's faces? You're obviously not smart enough to understand the difference between the two situations, and you're not worthy to me, my friends. I don't need that kind of negativity or stupidity in my life. So God bless.
Definitely. God bless. Peace out. I just had one point that I've been trying to make about this. And okay, now Robert E. Lee was one of the main generals of generals of the Confederate Army. And of course, on the side of the Union, we had Ulysses S. Grant, who was also a president. It doesn't make sense to me that we could have more monuments about Robert E. Lee than we would about Ulysses S. Grant. We have more schools. We have a school local to us in Florida named Robert E. Lee or Lee. There's no Ulysses S. Grant school. Like, that doesn't make sense. And he's a former president and probably one of the best generals ever. And of course, he was one of the most smartest and decisive, and he had a decisive win in that Civil War. And it's like, they don't even celebrate him, and he's on the winning side. That makes no sense. So why are you guys really doing it? I can see if we're trying to remove his statues. He doesn't even have statues like that.
Makes you wonder. It's not about the statue. It's not about the flag. It's about their ideals. Now, I know you mentioned the Confederate general. So there's another school in Jacksonville that's named Forrest High School, which is named after Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was another Confederate veteran, who was also the first Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, and this is who our school's named after. So just put that.
Well, I thought they were trying to change that name. Did that ever go through? I know I've since left Jacksonville, but I'm not sure if that ever went through. But they were really fighting hard to change to Nathan B. Forrest.
It doesn't matter. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been that anyway.
You know what I'm saying? Like, bro. And then I saw another interesting picture online. I know we're riding along in this, but this is very, very important. This actually means something. This is important for people to hear this stuff. I saw a picture. There are actually black people that fought in the Civil War, right? Where are their statues at?
Don't give a shit about them. They're going to do statues of Klansmen and everything else.
Okay.
I mean, no one knows who they are because they, like I said, they're erasing their history. They're erasing our history. They don't care about who, because they can fight in the war, but at the end of the day, they're still niggers and they're still colored people. They're not treated. Sure. They're not equals. So why do we need to acknowledge them? That's how they're thinking.
Yep, we'll set up the statues for the people that lost the war. That'll be that. That's how we stick it to them. We lost the war, but we didn't lose the statue building competitions. And my thing is, why would it be Confederate statues as high up as Maryland?
Hey, Montana too. Like,
yeah,
why?
Montana. Like, it doesn't make sense.
It makes perfect sense. It makes absolute perfect sense. So, but kind of put a button on this. The gentleman I was speaking to, again, I respect him for having the conversation, but one of his points made was like, how does this Charlottesville thing affect me personally? I'm like, because I'm black. Again, there's another interesting picture. If it showed, I think we are supposed to on our Instagram page at @comedian_podcast. It shows a cut screen of the picture of the people with the tiki torches. It's like, what does it say? Adolfo, I think you posted what they see versus what we see.
Oh yeah, I did post that. And it was basically like a picture of the different people that were out there for Charlottesville, the Tiki Torch bombers, whatever you want to call them, the whipping boys. And essentially what it says was, what y'all see is just these people, these faces. What we see are bankers, lawyers, doctors, people in the court system, or the system of law, jurors, different things like that.
Yeah, so that's how it affects my life, because I could go try to get this bank loan. Hey, guess what? I could be 100% approved. You saw with there's a player that played for the Chargers in San Diego who wanted to pay for his rent a year in advance in cash, and they still will not let him live there. Millionaire. So again, this country is better to be poor and white than rich and black, because again, that guy could have those same ideas where this guy wants to give you his money.
And that's
we're turning you away because I don't like your skin color.
And what you're saying is not even hyperbole. That's actual facts. You can look that up. There's data to back that up, that if you're a black man with a bachelor's degree, that you'll make just as much money as the average white high school dropout, white male. Like, those are stats. And that's another reason why you can say, like, oh, well, how does slavery affect you in 2017? You weren't a slave. My parents didn't own slaves. It's things like that. That's what affects us today, is when I can graduate high school, take 4 years, graduate high school, get my associate's degree in 2 years, and then 2 years later after that, get a bachelor's degree, go out into the workforce, and I make just as much money as a guy that dropped out of high school, and the only difference between us is our skin color. Like I had to go through 4 extra years of schooling, and they didn't. They didn't even finish high school, and we're making the same amount of money. That's where that the dreaded white privilege comes in, and when you start looking at those numbers, and those are facts.
And your credit score could be 60, 70, 80, 100 points higher than theirs, and you guys probably qualify for the same loans. And it's facts to back that up. And just to let you guys know, the world, we're not that far removed from slavery. I mean, my great grandmother, who just passed away in the late 2000s, was a sharecropper. So that's somebody I've known in my lifetime. Which sharecroppers, if you guys didn't know, were basically slaves without the slave title. So you're still a slave, but instead of us giving you housing, we'll give you crumbs, some cornbread, and pig feet to pick cotton and clean our rooms and still call us massa and boss. And so we're not even that far removed from slavery anyway. And I don't understand why people think, oh, you black people just need to get over it. There's no evidence over it. You guys are living in the past. You're liars. It's like you see it every day. I know people all the time that get shit loans because they're black. White people are afforded, because of white privilege, much better lifestyles than we are. I mean, I've been doing like a different job lately, and like I could sit around and I see people. I know people that have got master's degrees, and will sit there and work and make $10 an hour. I know white people that will get an associate's degree and make $70,000, $80,000. I had a very intricate conversation with a white woman the other day, and we were talking about Bank of America and different things like that. And she was saying, like, I don't think she had a college degree or anything like that. And I know myself, I finished 2 years of school, so I do have the associates and different things of that nature. And I was like, I kind of feel like I'm at my glass ceiling. And she was talking about how she's met the boss of the boss of the boss. And yeah, well, you know, it's not worth it to leave a job and you're making $70,000. And I'm like, $70,000? Me and you have the same skill set, and I'm making $30,000 less than you are.
Damn.
Same skill set. I got more college accreditation than she does, and she makes $30,000 more than I do. I'm pulling up at people's houses. They live the American dream for real. And I'm over here wondering, what apartment am I moving in next to continue to rape my pockets? You know what I'm saying? I know people that are white that are getting excellent car deals, 3%, 2%, 0% on loans. Niggas out here getting 15, 22% on loans. We're continuing to get raped. And that's why we scream for equality. But all they see is Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group. End quote for me on that.
That's all people want is equality. We're not trying to take anything away from anybody else. We just want the same thing that you guys are getting. That's the whole. That's it. There's nothing more, nothing less. Just equality. And just what you were saying about how, you know, like segregation wasn't that long ago. I don't know if you guys are watching the footnotes for 444. But the one for the story of OJ, Chris Rock was talking about how his mother
that was
had
crazy.
to go to the vet, had to go to the back door of a vet to get her teeth looked at. And this is Chris Rock is what? Chris Rock is like 50 maybe? And so we're talking about his mom. We're not talking about his great-great-grandma. We're talking about a 50-year-old black man's mother having to go through the back door of a vet's office to get her teeth looked at. That's not that long ago. These people that had to deal with this are still alive.
That's Chris Rock. That's probably the 70s or the 80s that went down.
Yeah, this isn't that long ago. Like, let's not pretend like slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, all this stuff was thousands of years ago. It wasn't. There are people still alive that lived through that.
Yeah, my mother went to a segregated school. That's just one generation away from me. Went to an all black school, witnessed signs for whites only, different things like that. So they always try to erase our history and act like they're without guilt here. But I mean, this isn't an indictment on the whole white race, But for me, it is. If you sit here and act like there's not a problem, then you are the problem.
Yep. So again, just to put a button on this, all the people that say, "Oh, you know, slavery happened, let it go. I didn't own slaves. I wasn't slaves." Have that same energy when 9/11 stuff comes around. Have that same energy. Why can't y'all let that go? Think about
They can
that.
never let it go.
Mm.
But on to a lighter note, right? We're going to go to a lighter note here, guys, right?
I guess, man. I could talk about this all day, man.
Yeah, but you know, we want to switch it up. It was just the 6th anniversary of one of the greatest dual or duet albums of all time. Right? We can agree on that.
I mean, the duet makes you think of singers, but
well, I mean, what do you call it then? A collaboration?
I'd call them like a group. I'd call that a group.
yeah, I call it
a group album collaboration. So one of the greatest of all time, Watch the Throne. I know you guys have a lot of opinions on that. I'm going to slide things over to Marcus because I know you probably have a lot to say about that. I do too, but I want you to go ahead and start us off.
I kind of want to start out with a question. Who do you think benefited more from that album between Kanye West and Jay-Z? Whose career do you think benefited more from that album coming out?
That's a tough one.
I mean, and just to give you a little bit of just to give you a little bit of context of where both of these guys' career was leading up to Watch the Throne. Kanye West had just created My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy before Watch the Throne came out, and Jay-Z was coming off of Blueprint 3.
An underrated album.
Solid albums in their own regard. My Twisted Dark Fantasies was, of course, a classic. And I can't give a take on who benefited more, but I can give my hot take on, to me, Kanye West outshined Jay-Z that whole album. It was on like maybe one song where I felt like they were on, where it was on equal footing. So I guess it maybe benefited Jay-Z more because some people, they thought that the Blueprint 3 album was really commercial. Some people thought it was a dud.
It was definitely Blueprint 3, I thought was a safe album for Jay-Z to make. And I'm not sure who benefited more, but I feel like when it comes to their creativity and how they are as artists and musicians, I feel like Watch the Throne kind of pushed Kanye to a different level, like where in his mind, he was like, you know what, I just came off of arguably the best hip hop album in the last 10 years. I did My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. People are hailing that as the best album in the last decade, the best hip hop album. That's what it was at the time. So in Kanye's mind, he's thinking, okay, I'm on par with Jay-Z. Me and Jay-Z are on equal footing. So now I should be able to work with Jay-Z and we should be viewed as peers. And I feel like Jay-Z, like he went in on the album, but I still don't feel like he viewed Kanye as a peer, even coming off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Like Kanye West pretty much was the guy. He was the biggest hip hop star at the time. Jay-Z was kind of in the background. Like he's still Jay-Z. He still does numbers. He's still a legend in his own right. But when we're talking about who's hot in these streets at that point, it was Kanye West. Kanye West was the man. And Kanye West kind of, I'm not going to be too disrespectful and say that he kind of saved his career, revitalized his career. But, you know, Kanye West gave him 2 verses on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. He gave Jay-Z 2 chances to shine on that album and then followed it up with Watch the Throne, which was a joint album.
Wait, whoa, hold on, pause. What? All I remember him on was that Monster?
So Appalled. He was on that. He was on that song.
Oh, that wasn't okay. So those were kind of forgettable. Okay,
I'm not going to say it was forgettable, but my thing is that I feel like Jay-Z he's going to continue to play it safe, and I guess this is just still my I'm on
Well, he
my
took chances with Magna Carta. People didn't like it, and even though he kind of was.
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
I'm not willing to say he took any chances, like, because I actually asked people this on Twitter, like, when was the last time, artistically, musically, Jay-Z took an actual risk when it came to making music, and the one that I said was when he put UGK on his single back in the 2000s, because
Big Pimpin'?
Yeah. I mean, it seems crazy to think that now that putting UGK on the record is a risk.
But it was a risk. But I'm trying to think, is it not any other song since then where he took a risk?
Like, what's the riskiest thing you've heard out of Jay-Z where you're like, yo, he's kind of taking a chance with doing this?
Well, I mean, 99 Problems was a very different song.
Yeah, it was still very hip hop.
It was hip hop, but it was really different.
Okay, but here's
the Linkin Park CD too.
Here's the thing when it comes to talking about taking a risk. Kanye West came off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, did Watch the Throne. His next album right after Watch the Throne was Yeezus. Now, you can ask any hip hop fan, that was a risk. That wasn't a typical.
Yeah, that was a big risk.
And a lot of people, I don't even want to say a lot of people, but at the time, people were kind of like, what is this? I don't understand what he's doing here. And that's what I mean by taking a risk. Never really.
You have two different type of artists, man. You have a pure rapper, and then you have a producer. Producers they're out there sometimes, man. He's very artistic. That's what people like him do. People like him do.
But you can't say that Jay-Z is not equally as artistic. I mean, he doesn't even write his own raps.
I think Jay-Z.
That's not really. It's being artistic, but when you're a producer, you have to be always constantly trying different things to push the limits with your music because you want to stand out. You want to sound like everybody else's beats or productions or sequencing. So you're going to be continually challenging yourself.
That's what the best producers do. All producers don't do that. Some producers want to sound.
We're talking about Kanye West, so
yeah, we're talking about like the best of the best. Because I mean, if we're going to keep it 100, Swiss Beats has kind of been sounding the same his whole career. But
yeah, he's been watching people in his beat battles though. Like,
yeah. Oh man, but I'm not going to take anything away artistically from Jay-Z because, like you said, Jay-Z is the greatest rapper to ever walk the earth, dead or alive. Whatever.
No,
in my opinion, he's the greatest to ever do it.
You're lying.
But my thing
You're a bigger Nas fans. Don't sit here and lie for the committee. Tell the truth.
I love Nas, but Jay-Z's
okay.
better.
You know Nas is better than Jay-Z.
Maybe maybe if you get him like writing, maybe we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, we definitely need to touch on that.
I will say that Jay-Z is the greatest rapper ever when you consider everything that he's done. But
no,
I feel like he doesn't really try to push the limits artistically like a Kanye West does. Because even My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, there were a lot of non-hip hop sounds to that album. It wasn't a typical hip hop album. There was a lot of distortion and a lot of the auto tuning and stuff like that. I mean, he's done auto tune before, but he kind of took it to another level on that album. And then
and not even that. Hold on, I just want to get one part in there. Not even just that, but even some of the other artists that he'll reach out to, like to be a hip hop artist and to reach out to people like John Lennon, to Elton John, things of that nature. I mean, he walks to the beat of his own drum, and he's just looking for making the best possible music.
Yes.
And so I do get you on that because Jay-Z, it does seem like, okay, I'm gonna make these albums. I'm gonna talk about the same thing, but I have some more interesting points. But I'll let you keep.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I was pretty much going to go down that same path as far as when it comes to Kanye West. Kanye West is going to do whatever it takes. He's going to get whoever he needs to get to put out the best music, put out the best sound. Because even when you look at Yeezus, he went and had someone like a Travis Scott, who wasn't that big of a name at that time. He had Chief Keef on his album because that was the sound he was looking for. Jay-Z, on the other hand, he's going to kind of go the safe route. He's going to go with what sells. Like on his next album.
Rapper's rapper.
I understand that, but
the same thing, man.
But this is something that someone said when I asked, when was the last time Jay-Z took a risk musically? And they said, oh, when he did Suit and Tie with Justin Timberlake. And I'm like, how was getting on a record with the biggest R&B artist at that time taking a risk? That's not taking a risk musically. If anything, that's the opposite of taking a risk. That's a moneymaker. And I'm not gonna shit on Jay-Z for that, but Jay-Z is gonna do what it takes to get paid. You get on a song with Justin Timberlake, you're gonna get spins, and you're gonna get money off of that. You go on tour with Justin Timberlake, you're gonna get money, you're gonna get paid off of that. Now, if you're someone like Kanye West and you're like, yo, Travis Scott, that's who I want to work with. Chief Keef, that's who I want to work with. These are big name people, not globally, not worldwide, in their regions, and for younger kids, downloading mixtapes online. But he's willing to take risk and work with people like even the Life of Pablo. He had Designer on a song. No one knew who Designer was before that song.
Taxstone did Free Tax.
Yeah, but that was in a certain region in the East Coast.
I mean, he was posting on Twitter all the time. I clicked on it one time. I didn't listen to him. I'm like, damn, this dude.
Yeah, but
I feel
the reason why I ride for Kanye so hard is that he's willing to push things artistically. He's willing to have someone like Designer on a song, willing to have someone like Chance the Rapper, who was bubbling up but wasn't that big until he got on Ultralight Beam. And
he blew up from that. Even Chief Keef, he blew up when he got with Kanye. When Kanye remixed the song.
Yeah, and even when it comes to making albums, like The Life of Pablo was a living, breathing project, because when it first was being released, it was like 6 or 7 songs, and they kept changing it. Waves was on it, and then it wasn't. They had a version of Wolves. Wolves is, I've heard 3 different versions of Wolves.
Yeah.
There's 2 different versions of 30 Hours. He's adjusted that song a bunch of times. He keeps creating, and he's trying to push the sound and the culture forward. Jay-Z is, like you said, he's a technical, skilled rapper, and he's going to do what it takes to get paid.
Now, actually, the last risk Jay-Z probably took was one of my favorite Jay-Z songs, which is no longer on Tidal, which I don't understand why. Is Beware of the Boys, featuring Punjabi MC. I feel that was a risk, because in America you can't be having songs with people with weird, funny names like Punjabi and have those weird Indian beats and stuff like that.
Well, they don't care about the Indians like that. It's as long as it's not like Afghanistan or anything. But
well, whatever, it was a joke. But yeah, that's kind of risky. It was a different sound. I like that song though. Very good.
I'm gonna have to actually check that out. I mean, in my opinion,
you've heard it. You probably just know what the title of it was.
In my opinion, Kanye West was a better artist than Jay-Z. Jay-Z's a better rapper.
Yeah, I guess 2 different things though.
Yeah, it is. It's 2 different things, but I do think that Jay-Z I think that he benefited from having Kanye, because Kanye showed his behind on Watch the Throne. Watch the Throne, for its time, was a very good CD. I did go back and listen to a couple of songs, and it was like, man, I was like, dang, Kanye's dropping bars on this. Like, I don't know if he's paying for it, or I'm not getting into that, but he was really dropping some bars. He dropped some jewels. He dropped some gems. He made that album. If that was just Jay-Z, it would have been Kingdom Come, kind of, to me.
Yeah, I do feel like Watch the Throne is more of a Kanye album than a Jay-Z album. Like, I understand it's a joint album, but if I had to, you treat it like a bike. Like, whose house is this bike going to stay at? Watch the Throne stays at Kanye's house overnight. Like, I feel like, because he had more input on the music selection, the beats, and I feel like the concept of the album, I feel like Kanye had his a foot in more.
Well, and that's what happens when you have a producer rapper on the project. That's the added benefit of having that. So,
and I do have just a couple of some quick statements or questions. To me, why do, like, a lot of times with artists, and I gave this example to someone the other day. We were talking about artists in my DM, and I was kind of saying how some guys, like, I'll take a guy like a Young Jeezy, who's now Jeezy. He was trap. Then it was like, I'm getting into political stuff and branching out. I'm getting with new artists. And then it was like, at that point, oh, he's sold out. He's no good anymore. Or even Kanye West. Everybody, I want the old Kanye. The Life of Pablo, he gives you glimpses of the old Kanye. He has evolved himself. And even if you take away the Kim Kardashian and the Kardashian stuff, people will still say he fell off, because he's constantly trying to reinvent himself, and reinvent the music and reinvent the wheel. Why do we accept that from artists? Like if an artist tries to change, all of a sudden us as fans are like, well, he sucks now. But we're good with hearing the same Jay-Z albums over and over again over the years, or the same Nas album, even though I know Nas has taken some risks too. But we're okay with hearing some of the same things from those guys. But if someone else takes a risk, now I'm not a fan of him no more. He's sold out. He's no good. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't care about the music. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I know for people that say that they want the old Kanye, they never really listened to Kanye before. That's what I get from them, because you don't want the old Kanye. What you want is the less famous Kanye, because Kanye back then, he was still talking this way. People still thought he was crazy. He was still arrogant. He still had a big ego. He thought he was going to be the greatest producer, rapper ever. But now he's more famous, and now his voice is louder. He's more amplified now. He's been saying the same stuff since College Dropout. You don't want the old Kanye. You want the Kanye before he went on stage at the VMAs. You want the Kanye that wasn't on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. You want the Kanye that we didn't really. You want the Kanye that we heard and that we heard about, but we don't want the Kanye that's like the big rock star. We don't want that guy.
Yeah, that's how all those people just go listen to his old CDs. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, get that shit out of here.
Yeah, because to me, with The Life of Pablo, even his work on Watch the Throne, and My Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasies, he gives you those glimpses. Whatever, I don't give a fuck. Anyway, he gives you glimpses of the old Kanye. But it's like, I mean, I understand. I guess people, they want the classic College Dropout talking about those struggles, but you got to understand, what is he, 37, 38 now?
He still talks about some of those same things also. Like, let's not get that twisted.
Well, I appreciate the growth from him, though, because like we're saying, I don't understand why people want an artist to stay the same. I want the artists that I love for them to change. I love listening to College Dropout and then listening to The Life of Pablo and being like, you know what? These sounds are totally different because Kanye West is not that same guy. When we talk about like how old he is, back then he was just a unsigned producer trying to make it as a rapper. Now he's one of the biggest producers, rappers. He's married. He's got 2 kids. He's way more famous. He's different now. He's a different person. And for people to not expect him to change who he is as a person, that's just silly. That's how you end up with bland, boring music. You're not going to get that from a Kanye West.
No, you're not. But like I said, in a sense, like I was talking to someone yesterday, a girl, and she was saying how Beyonce doesn't appeal to the young generation anymore. And I was kind of like, well, Beyonce is married with 3 kids. The single ladies talk. What was going on? She's married with multiple kids now. You're not going to get that same thing. And artists, you have to grow up. Like, to me, I'm going to use Gucci Mane as an example. To me, Gucci Mane, he took a risk with the Obsessed and Mariah Carey, and he went right back to the trap stuff. He was actually fading off into the sunset before he went to jail. Jail, for whatever reason, the young kids love jail. Now everybody free Gucci. He came back, dropped the dud, then he dropped some decent projects. But it's like he's going to remain in that same lane. And how believable is that? You're about to get married. You're in your mid to late 30s. Why are you still talking about trap rap? Like, when are you going to grow out of that? What's the longevity? What's the life of trap rap if you're rich? Like, it doesn't make sense. But we celebrate people that don't change.
No, some people do. I celebrate people that change a lot. Like, even you can listen to Kendrick. Kendrick doesn't sound the same on Damn. He sounds way different than he did on Section 80. Like, he's still got that same flow, or not the same flow, but he's still rapping very well at a high level. But the things that he does with his voice, his cadences, now he's being a more detailed storyteller when he's rapping. He's evolved as an artist, and I would expect that. You expect that from the great artists. You expect them to change. You expect them to evolve. Prince, Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Kanye West, Madonna, whoever, Elton John, whoever you want to talk about, the most creative people are not going to stay the same. You can't contain who they are and what they have inside of them. They're going to get it out. And then if you throw on top of that, just sticking on Kanye West, you throw on top of that, getting into a car accident where you almost die. You throw in, having a very public breakup with Amber Rose. You talk about your mother dying. You talk about the issues that happened after you went on stage at the VMAs with Taylor Swift. You talk about your personal issues between you and Jay-Z and your relationship with Beyonce in line with Jay-Z. You talk about being in one of the most public relationships with Kim Kardashian. That's a lot of stuff to add into that creativity. So you put all that in a pot, stir it up. I am super excited for whatever Kanye West has coming out, because now they're saying that him and Kid Cudi are supposedly coming out with some sort of joint project together. So you know that's not going to sound like anything we've heard from those two before. You know it's going to be something different.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it comes soon, because I'm curious to see what kind of bars he has for Jay-Z. So
he's got to bring it, though. He's got to. Like Jay-Z crossed the line. Jay-Z was out of line.
The button that up. It's kind of like now at this point with him going back at Jay-Z, it's kind of like the 8 Mile thing. Like Jay-Z kind of already exposed himself. Like unless you're going to come with like specific details, there's really nothing he's going to say that's going to be anything that we don't know. Yeah, he cheated. He's maybe a bad husband, maybe not a great father at some points. He's already said all that. So anything else that Kanye West says about that is going to be dry snitching, in my opinion. So.
Well, he hasn't said anything negatively that he's done in relation to being Kanye's quote unquote friend. And I think that's
but there's stuff that we can visibly see though. Like the whole Black Album situation. That clearly shows that shit wasn't as sweet as they thought it was. So but yeah. Y'all got any shout outs as we wrap this up?
Just shout out to all the women that gave me feedback on the makeup episode we had. Like I said on that episode, I will defer to women when it comes to why and when they wear makeup. That's just the easiest way for me to live my life.
Yeah, definitely at me with all their ads. I want to follow all those beautiful Nubian queens out here. Even though I think I follow one of them. So shout out to y'all.
I have no shout outs this week. Just thanks everybody for holding it down for us as usual. Thanks for all the support. Adolphus Savage out.
Yeah, only thing I'm going to say closing out is, again, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, definitely drop us a review. Let us know what you think. Again, if you listen on SoundCloud, drop a comment. And if you were on Instagram, Twitter, and you're active on Twitter, definitely add us at Adolphus_Savage, Marcus_Sniffles, and South3706. Shout out to Elle. She is AWOL, so she'll be getting her check doc this week also. So, Against Committee Podcast, we out. Peace.